So this property just sold for full asking price. And it wasn't because of my negotiation. It wasn't because of my marketing. It wasn't because of the photography. And we took some really good pictures. But it had everything to do with how the owner or the landlord owned and managed the property long before we even talked about listing the property. And today I want to go over why the property performed so well, because I think there's a lesson there that every landlord can understand. One of the reasons I'm documenting Road to 50 listings is because every deal teaches me something. This one reinforced something I believed for a long time. So this was a property that we had listed for $135,000. It also sold for $135,000. I'm going to walk us through how we started with the owner. Remember, the owner is who locked in that full asking sale price by getting a good property, by managing the property well. That good management created buyer confidence, and we ended up getting full asking. So our owner, he owns several properties here in the St. Louis area. This particular one is just the one that he decided to sell. Some details about the property. Section 8. So a lot of investors are looking for Section 8 properties. They want to know that they have the government who's going to be making those monthly rent payments. This tenant in particular, Section 8 was covering 100% of her payment. We had a lease, so we were able to provide a lease for the buyer. We had rent rolls. We had access to the property so that we can be able to conduct inspections and appraisals. So all of that instills buyer confidence whenever they're making a purchasing decision. So why do the buyers care? From a buyer's perspective, this wasn't just a house, but it was an operating business. We had rent rolls in order to show the financial performance of the property. We had a lease in place to show the tenant and landlord relationship for this property. It was Section 8, so it's guaranteed payments. All of this creates certainty whenever a buyer is making a decision on if they should purchase an investment property or not. So this deal actually came together from our active agent commitment that we give to the buyers, to our sellers. So whenever we have a property that's available, we don't just put it on the MLS, Redfin, and Zillow and wait for another agent to come and sell our property. We are actually proactively making efforts to sell the property each day. So for this one in particular, I was calling some realtors who've represented buyers who bought similar properties to see, hey, are you still working with investor buyers? I got a property at Section 8, 1500. If you're working with landlords, they're going to love this property. When can I get you guys over to see it? Let me send you the link. Check out the pictures. Shoot it over to your buyers. Let me know what you think. What I want is to catch that agent who's working with investor buyers, but life is just life. And they haven't got to go through the MLS. They haven't got to go through Redfin. They haven't got to go through Zillow and really search properties and find one that will match what it is that their buyers are looking for. So me, whenever I'm displaying a property, I almost want to work my end of the field as well as the buyer's agent end of the field, because I have a property to sell. My goal is to get it sold. My duty to my seller is to get the property sold. So I have to proactively pick up the phone and sort of take up space in that buyer's agent circle. Hey, you're buyer's agent. I see that you've represented buyers in the past. Who you working with now? I need you to come take a look at what I have. And actually, it wasn't too many calls before I locked in with the right agent. She shot it over to her buyer. They were interested. And next thing you know, they sent over a contract. That's the other thing for these types of properties. Whenever they're tenant occupied, we don't allow access until we have an accepted contract. So we had a couple of the offers that our seller was like, no, it's so early in the game. I'm not getting ready to reduce the price like that. And this one came in. It was a good offer. And we end up going under contract from active prospecting and securing a buyer. So as we know, getting under contract is just the beginning of the game. We still have to get through this transaction coordination process and close the deal. So how did we keep this deal together? Again, it's going to come back to good management. So they're going to request the financials. They want to know how this property performs. John, you gave me a good game over the phone, But yes, can you send over that lease? I want to see the lease. Can you send over the financial, some type of rent ledger or rent rolls? Can you send that over to me? Let's see how they pay. Let's see how often are they late. Let's see how often do they have to pay a late fee. Let's see if Section 8 is only covering 25% of the rent. I have to document and produce all of that. For the buyer, it was a piece of cake because we had management who was able to just shoot that over to us. So we was able to get that over to the buyers and the buyer's agent. That panned out well. Okay, good. We got through square one. Next up, we need access. It's tenant occupied. Tenants, hey, no, I gotta work. I can let y'all in maybe a day or two. So we have to go through scheduling coordination. This tenant wasn't difficult at all, but I have had difficult tenants. I'm dealing with one right now that's trying to push me out a week before I can even get into the property. But coming back to this property, that's another thing. We have to coordinate access so that the inspector can walk the property. Once the inspector walks the property, what's his job? To scare the living daylights out of the buyer, right? But no, they had the inspection. I know the buyers are going to use that as negotiation, as leverage to come back and say, hey, man, my inspector found this, he found that, he found this. Can we reduce the price? Can we do a credit? So we had the inspection. The inspections went over well. They reviewed the financials went over well. What's next? The big dog, the appraiser. So we had to get access again in order to get the appraiser out to let us know, you all have this property listed for 135. Let's see if the market supports this price that you guys just put on this property. And the appraiser went over well. The appraisal went over well. So we are making like good time. We're on track to be able to close this property out. But those are some things that you can expect that you have to manage and see how your property lines up with. Once the inspector comes through, we got to sell it to the inspector. Once the appraiser comes through, we got to sell the property to the appraiser. And this particular property performed well throughout all of those measures. So I think one of the reasons that my seller was successful is because he wasn't desperate. He was not a motivated seller. How do we become motivated sellers? Poor and challenging management sets us up to be motivated when it's time to sell. Hey, I need you to buy this property. I'll bend, I'm flexible. The property is a burden to me now. I'm motivated. That's a very, very, very vulnerable and tough position to be in as a seller. We don't want to be like that. We want to have leverage when we come to the marketplace. Set yourself up to have leverage and be in a good positioning, good posture whenever you hit the marketplace, because you know that you've taken care of this asset. I know that my property can command the top of the market because I've managed it well. And that's what my seller did for this one. He had equity, he had cash flow, he had a performing asset. So he was able to sell from a place of strength and not from a place of just sheer desperation and motivation. So every listing is teaching me something. What I'm learning is that when it's time for you to sell, that's not the time to start to prepare to sell. You should be preparing months to even years before the sale. Again, remember positioning. So next week, I'll share another experience that I'm having with my road to 50.